Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? So as Piotr said, my name is Antoni Pawlak, and I'm a developer and researcher at L2BEAT. And personally, I would consider myself a nerd, so I really like to talk about layer 2s. So such conferences are really a joy for me. I can really talk about it for hours, but basically today we only have 20 minutes. So I decided to try to answer one simple question. My money is on layer 2. What is the worst that could happen? And with this question, we'll use it as a tool, and I will try to show you the risks associated with using layer 2s. And also I will introduce L2BEAT and what is our methodology for risks and how we internally interpret them. So let's start. This story starts with a man, or in this example, a crab, who has some hardly earned money. And he heard about Ethereum. It has really good values. It is decentralized, permissionless, open to everyone. And he also wants to invest. He heard about the DeFi or maybe some coin that he wants to invest. But quickly in this story, we learn that it can be expensive for him. The gas prices are fluctuating. And in the events, for example, when meme coin mania happens, it can be that very small transaction for a very low value, the fee can be even bigger than the value. So basically, Ethereum in this state cannot be used widely by most of the users. And we all know it, right? That it can't be expensive. We have to do something with it. So the scaling solution is needed. Here are listed some of the ideas. The first and very basic one, which comes from Bitcoin even, is Lightning Network. There were some ideas on Ethereum. Also Plasma. And alternative L1s, so Ethereum killers. I don't know even if I can count them all, how many Ethereum killers were there, but Ethereum is still there alive. So apparently, very recently, rollups came up, and that is basically the go-to solution for scaling. Right now, Ethereum has a rollup-centric roadmap for the development. There is the whole idea to make the protocol in line with the rollups to help the rollup teams create as good of a product and as scalable as it could be. And today I will not get into the details about how the rollups exactly work, but I can tell you that basically it is a blockchain which inherits the consensus and the data availability from the other blockchain, which means that if you are, in theory, of course, interacting with layer 2, that means it feels as safe and as decentralized as Ethereum. But remember, it is just a theory. It looks really good, right? So let's bridge some money, right? Ethereum Foundation is behind this rollups. They will feel like Ethereum. And excuse me, gentlemen, here is where L2BEAT comes into place. If you just want to send your money to a random rollup, probably you should ask yourself a question and go to our website. And that is exactly what we do. Probably you know all of us, our website because of the TVL, but in my opinion, the most important part is the risk analysis. So we try to make it transparent to the users. What are the risks associated with using certain deployments? And that is what we do. And going back to the first question, I think L2BEAT is a really handy resource to answer it. So what is the worst that could happen? I propose we split this question into 3 smaller ones, because there are a lot of nuances. So those 3 questions are, do I have to trust someone? Can I always withdraw? And how Ethereum secures my money? The first one. So do I have to trust someone? So do you know this is possible to just do malicious upgrade of the rollup? If there is no delay and rollup is just a proxy, the admin can upgrade it and later drain it. And that is exactly what you can see in our column on risk analysis upgradability. Basically, the best would be, so there is no risk, you cannot upgrade the contracts. Here you won't see it because all of them are upgradable, but believe me, a little bit to the bottom of the list, there are some deployments who are not upgradable. The worst is, of course, red. Red means that basically in any second, someone can just upgrade the proxy and drain all your money. You have to trust the admin of the system. And the yellow is something between, because you will have a delay between it, so maybe you can escape with your funds, so you'll see the upgrade with advance. But it's also a bit risky, so you need to take it into account. Also, regarding this trusting, also in many rollups, there are privileged actors. So I don't know if you know, but in many cases, there's a whitelist for sequencer, there is a whitelist for validators. And basically, if there's just one whitelisted validator, he can just update the state for his malicious way and just withdraw the money. So he, for example, changed the balance of his account to all that is on the rollup and just withdrawn it. And that is exactly what we see in the permissions section. If you go to any of the projects on our website, you can scroll down to permissions, and there you will see that, for example, in this case, there is a security council who can make the upgrades faster, or there is just one sequencer behind the whitelist and whitelist of validators. So those are the addresses or the actors that you have to trust when using layer 2. Okay, the first question is answered, so the second one, can I always withdraw? So I don't know if you have ever asked yourself a question, what would happen if you go to the website and you see that there is a page not found? There is a failure. So imagine that all the off-chain infrastructure has failed. There is no working sequencer, there is no working validator. What would happen then? And that is a pretty edge case that we at L2BEAT analyze the risk analysis. That we have two columns, but basically we look at them together. Because in the event when nothing is working, like a sequencer, validator, you have to not have the risks on both of those columns. So for example, if you have there like a self-sequence, so in theory, if just a sequencer is down, you can self-sequence, but when the proposer is failing, you cannot withdraw. So just a doomsday scenario, when everything fails, to safely exit your money, you have to don't have a risk for both of those columns. So when answering this question, can I always withdraw, you have to look at both of those columns. And the third one, this is a bit technical, but keep with me on that one. I really promise it won't be that technical. So quick reminder about the rollup. It is a blockchain that inherits the consensus and data availability from the other blockchain, in this case Ethereum. And there are two technical nuances. The first one is how state validation exactly works. Because is Ethereum checking the state transition? Can someone post a malicious state upgrade? And there are currently the two ways for the state validation. One is optimistic and the second one is ZK. In the case of ZK, we do not show risks there because there is a smart contract deployed. So basically, you cannot post a new state transition which is fraudulent. And in the case of optimistic rollups, you have to be able to submit the fraud proof. And it happens that in many cases, the fraud proofs are not yet deployed, or they are behind the whitelist. So you have to know that basically in many cases, Ethereum is not validating the state transitions. You are just trusting the sequencer or whatever actor is doing that. The second part of this technical details is data availability. And you can think about this, is all the needed data posted on Ethereum to recreate the state? And imagine a situation when, for example, you have submitted, like you have used a rollup, you have deposited your money, and for 2 years you have not used this one. And what is the social consensus to even keep this data? If someone will use it? So, in our opinion, if you post the data on Ethereum, there is a strong social consensus to keep this data, to keep the archival nodes running, and there is a very, very strong chance that you will be able to retrieve it. But in some cases, the data is not there, so you will just have external server, which means that someone is just having this data and you have to trust him. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Summing it up, those 2 columns are regarding to how Ethereum secures the rollup that you are using. Yeah, and one last summary of this question. So how to use L2BEAT to answer this first question? What is the worst that could happen? You have to at first ask, do I have to trust someone? And go to upgradability and permissions. Can I always withdraw? You can see sequencer and proposer failure. And the last one is how Ethereum secures my money. You can go and see our state validation and data availability risk. And all of this comes handy into one risk rosette that at one glance you can see what is happening. And probably if you see some reds, it's like a red flag, so you have to ask yourself a question whether you should continue using it or not. Excuse me, I'll just drink some water. Okay, so you see this risk rosette, right? And now is the fun part. On the left, you can see the top 10 rollups right now. And I personally see a lot of reds there. And I feel like this little guy in the grass, just watching the state of current L2s. And I think that is where L2BEAT is truly needed, because there are a lot of systems that are deploying. They make certain adjustments to how they should work, just to work for now, because they want to have users, of course, they want to onboard people, they want to make like cheaper transactions. But there is like an independent third party is needed, and that is where L2BEAT takes place. So how are we the watchdog? Basically, I would split it into 3 parts. So we do the research, we read the smart contracts that are deployed on Ethereum and on the other chains. We do our own, for example, multi-sig reports or exploits like Layer 0 or Fuel. The very interesting part is the second, so on-chain monitoring. Besides the data that we have, so the TVL, the activity, we also have the configuration for every rollup, and we track lively the changes that happen on the chain. So for example, if there is an upgrade or if there is a change of an admin or change of a very important parameter, for example, fraud-proof window, will be able to detect it and inform the users, and very most important thing, just to contact the team what is happening with the rollup. And the public presence, I think, is the most important and vital part of L2BEAT, that we are quite popular, and I think people listen to us and to our values. And we can voice our opinion, and the projects will listen. The users can also see us, and that's like the 3 parts recipe for being a watchdog, and I think we are doing quite well. But maybe you can ask yourself a question, are we truly independent? Because, you know, this business model, when we list the companies, in many cases it just turns out that, you know, someone will take money from the other one to just make him a bit to the top. But that's not how we do it. We try to stay independent. So we rely on the donations. We rely on grants. For example, Gitcoin, Ethereum Foundation, Optimism. And the third part is, even if we do commercial projects, we try to do them in line with L2BEAT values. So they are open source and they help the layer 2 ecosystem. For example, we have created the DYDX State Explorer, so you can see, and also you can do force withdrawal if something bad happens. Finishing up, I think stages is a feature that displays it the best, what is our vision and what are our values. So basically with this, we want to show that it's more important to have the long-term vision than the short-term gains. And here we show how far away on the development path to being secure by the Ethereum is a given rollup. And that is why, and that is how we make those rollups in line with the Ethereum's vision for scaling. You can go and check yourself what are the stages of a different rollups besides the risks, so I think it's also quite handy. Finishing up, we tried to answer this question, my money is on L2, what's the worst that could happen? And I think right now the answer is pretty simple, just go to L2beat.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we actually have time for questions. So do we have any questions in the audience? Yes.
Thank you very much. This is Joaquin from Taiko. First of all, congratulations for the whole team for the work that you do. My question would be related to the data availability. You know, validiums, for example, a CK validium that keep the data, let's say, off-chain in a specific chain with the only purpose of keeping that data. How do you evaluate that risk and why?
So in this case, we have it as yellow or red one. It really depends on our interpretation of this one. To be honest, it's a bit of a hard question because right now we are re-evaluating this risk. But in our opinion, it is very important to have this social consensus of Ethereum that the data will be kept. And all the others are basically just assumptions that you have to make.
Cool, thank you.
Oh, I wandered into your website L2BEAT recently, and there are figures for TPS for different L2s. And given that L2s were supposed to scale and increase scalability manifold, and those TPS numbers aren't really that big, would you consider additional layers to be a success as far as scaling is concerned?
So your question is,
given that the TPS numbers for different L2s,
do I think they should be bigger?
They aren't bigger for some reason.
Yeah.
No idea why.
So
they were supposed to scale Ethereum substantially, not times 2, 3,
yeah,
10 or more. So do you consider additional layers to be a failure, or simply it is a transition stage to something much superior?
So giving you a context, like last year when we were on the conference, all the TPS was just like the combined TPS of layer 2s was smaller than Ethereum, and right now it's like few folds more. So the trend is upwards, but yeah, definitely it needs to be way more to scale, right? And it's hard to predict the future. Like we just have we have this feature coded, and we hope that one day the front end will break because there will be too many numbers.
Thank you very much.
There's a lot more questions.
Okay.
Thanks, Antoni, for your work. It's great. I have a question, because you make a question, can I withdraw? My question is, can I withdraw what? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you mentioned withdrawing ETH from L2. How the situation will look like if I have some token on L2, possibly breached? Can I take my data to L1 and do anything with that?
It depends on the bridge that you have used. If you have used this canonical one, I was talking about the canonical bridges. So basically in this case, if there are no risk, you should be able to withdraw, but you will have to use the canonical bridge. So imagine that you have deposited ETH or any other token deployed on Ethereum to this canonical bridge, you can withdraw it without anyone's permission. But if you, for example, have a token deployed on layer 2, it's a bit harder. It's a different question.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm Alexander Kvaskov, and I had questions, but I opened your platform, and all my questions, I found answers. It's very nice. Thank you for your platform. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Questions?
So, thank you guys.